What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel for today's happy hour live stream. We are here for Wednesday, February 25th. I have to check and make sure I had the date correct to discuss everything around the Toronto Raptors, the latest news, reaction to the latest games, maybe preparation for tonight's game, everything about the Raptors, and along the way, of course, answering questions from you in the chat. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so if you're on board and ready to go, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, keep up to date with this content, and make sure as well you hit the like button to keep and to help drive us up in the YouTube algorithm and to support the content. Raptors in the second night of a back-to-back today, a little bit later on tonight, but we do have the Thunder game to talk about. We'll be going a little bit more in depth than what we saw from the Raptors in that recent loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to talk about some of the rotation decisions that Darko Rajakovic decided to go with, who he decided to play, who he maybe should have played more, who he maybe should have played less, and somebody who maybe didn't even play at all. Then we're going to discuss where the Raptors have really had issues against some of the top quality teams in the NBA this season, because it was another loss against one of the better teams in the NBA. I know the Thunder are the best team record-wise, but they didn't have SGA. It was a tough game, and they showed some positive stuff, but it was a winnable one as well. So we'll try and decipher where the Raptors kind of faltered there. And with that, from that, we'll be able to go through where are the biggest areas of concern for the team going forward. So that's what we got in store for today. I'm looking forward to getting to it. As always, please send your questions in the chat, and of course, I will get to them as we go through the stream. Let me know if the audio sounds okay. I messed with some settings on my streaming software for today. Let me know if it's okay. More importantly, let me know if it's not okay. But let me know if it's okay as well. Just have that peace of mind. Anyways, how's everyone doing? Wednesday. It felt like a long day today, but we're trudging through the week. We're getting through it. I always tell you guys the Wednesday happy hour is just the nice little spur on for the rest of the week. It keeps you going for the rest of the week. Gets you to the final 2 days. It's a little bit past the halfway stage. You just gotta the extra little push to get through the final 2 days of the week. And busy 2 days as well for me. One of my coworkers in my very small company is going on vacation, so everyone else kind of has to fill in for that person, which sucks. But when I go away, they do the same for myself. So it's part of the trade and part of what goes down there. But let's start to dig into things, everyone. Focus initially is going to be on the recent loss to the OKC Thunder. So 116-107 loss to the Thunder. Weird game. Really weird game. So the Raptors start this one in control. They're up by, I don't think they quite got it to 10 points, but they were up by 8 points. They're up by 9 points. Thunder brought it back, and the Raptors stretched out again. They're up by 8 or 9 points in the second quarter. And then the Thunder kind of took over the game. With 5 or 6 minutes to go in the second quarter, they really took over the game. Defensively, they were denying a lot of the entry passes to Brandon Ingram. They were taking away just the ability for the Raptors to get him the ball. They were just denying. It's something that the Detroit Pistons were also successful in doing against us, where it's not even Brandon Ingram couldn't really get going, so we just couldn't really get him the ball, particularly in the first half. On top of that, with the great denial on defense, they were just starting to knock down every shot. Cason Wallace was excellent, absolutely excellent in this game. I'll always look at Cason Wallace and think, man, I wish we had that guy. I wish we had that guy on our team. We had a chance at the draft, but he got picked two spots before the Raptors when he was selected at 11th overall. Anyways, he started the game 7 of 7 at half. Came down a bit in the second half, still went 11 of 16, still went 4 or 5 from 3, but he was killing us in the second quarter. Same with Alex Caruso, who was a plus 22 in this game. Knocked down, I think he knocked down maybe one of his threes in the second quarter. Anyways, they were just all over us in that second quarter, making it difficult for the Raptors to do anything. And where the Raptors, they like to play in transition, they like to play with pace. When the other team gets on a run, they start scoring a bunch. It becomes more difficult for the Raptors because they're just unable to play in transition as much because they're not getting as many stops, perhaps, as they're used to getting. And when we get into these sort of shootouts where they're starting to score, we struggle to keep up. The Thunder overturned the deficit. We're up by 9 points at the half. And then the third quarter, it just felt like there was no energy to this Raptors team. They, went from being pretty locked in on defense to missing rotations, letting guys make the backdoor cut. And it was just super sloppy. On offense, as things started to become a bit more complicated, Scottie Barnes, who had a great game, and I'll touch on that, but like when it becomes a bit of a tough situation for the Raptors on offense, Scottie Barnes likes to put the onus on himself to get the offense going, and oftentimes when he does that, it turns into Scottie Barnes just trying to hunt his shot in mid-range, which is just not a great shot, and he kind of gets frustrated with the offense, and he's just trying to take these not-so-great shots that aren't really helping the team. But I think it just gets to a point where he's feeling like we're not getting anything else. I may as well try and do this myself, essentially. So that's, again, where some of the complications of the offense kind of compound. So midway through the third, the Thunder were stretching out the lead, and it got to a point where it's like we're getting destroyed here. The Thunder went up by 25 points. They're up 96-71, and I was pretty close to just saying, like, I mean, you may as well just turn the game off here. This is brutal. Like the Raptors are giving nothing here either. It wasn't even like they weren't even like giving us that sliver of hope of like where is the comeback going to come from. But then out of nowhere, it just starts to click. The Raptors go on a 30-5 run to tie the game at 101. Like, just utterly, remarkably able to turn the tide of the game and get back into it. Like I said, it felt like it was going nowhere. It was going absolutely nowhere for the Raptors. And then all of a sudden, the defense is super engaged. Jacoby Walter, shout out to him. He was excellent in this game, starting to knock down some shots. One of his better games of the season. He goes 5 of 7 from 3. Particularly near the end of the third quarter, I think he hit 3 threes in the third quarter, which started to kind of get the game back into range for the Raptors. But as much as the offense started to kind of kick into gear, it was the defense really that was the driving force of that comeback. Because going a 35 run, you need to have a lot of possessions to get 30 points, and a lot of possessions where you have to limit the team. They only scored 5 points in that run, of course. Raptors offense just locked in. There's even like a 3-minute stretch where I don't even think the Raptors scored, but the Thunder weren't able to stretch the lead out any further because they weren't scoring at all. I think the Thunder ended up having an entire 5-minute stretch with 0 points. So once again, the defense kind of showcases where they are able to make us competitive, super competitive in the clutch and in these scrappy sort of atmospheres, because we can just deny in the fourth quarter. But the Thunder, this is a team full of winners. This is defending champions. They showed it. When it got to 101-101, they locked in. They went on a 9-0 run and were able to hold the lead from there, 116-107. Box scores, most impressive player, like I mentioned, Cason Wallace, 11 of 16, 27 points. Outstanding. Caruso off the bench, 16 points. Isaiah Joe was a killer from 3, 6 of 11 from 3, and with 22 points for himself. On the Raptors side, like I said, Jacoby Walter played well with 17 points. Jamal Shed gave us a good boost in that comeback as well, 13 points. Quickly had a couple threes, I think, in that run. And even RJ Barrett played well here. Brandon Ingram got his offense going a little bit later, but he was a minus 23. But I think the most ridiculous stat, and I talked about it in the watch along, but see if you watching right now can kind of figure out what the most ridiculous statistic is out of everything you can see here from the ESPN box score. So you look into the plus-minus category. 10 Raptors players played. They all played at least 6 minutes. 8 out of 10 played at least 15 minutes. 9 of the 10 players were in the negative. Some slightly, but all 9 were in the negative, other than Scottie Barnes, who goes plus 18. Plus 18 in a 9-point loss. Like, that's just crazy. What is it? Like, is that minus 27 when Barnes is not on the floor? That is outrageous. And it's not like a one-off here. It's been pretty consistent this year with the numbers kind of reflecting in that way for Scottie Barnes. It's just been ridiculous. Like, what a game from Scottie Barnes. The stat sheet, man, like 15 points. I know he didn't hit a 3, but he's 15 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 3 steals. Like, just ridiculous. Like, this guy impacts winning so much for this team that it's a crime that we lost in this game. And some people gotta step up a little bit to help this guy out, because that is an outrageous stat line from Scottie Barnes. Like, truly, truly astonishing that he was able to do that. Anyways, I think quite a bit to like here because of the way the Raptors fought back to get back in the game despite being down by 25. But we haven't done this a lot late. Like, last season, it was pretty often sight. We're down. We make a comeback or an almost comeback, but still lose. Hasn't quite happened a lot of seasons because Raptors were just winning a bunch of games. And they actually have made some like pretty good comebacks this season and actually won from that point. But still, I think there were positives here. Just the way they crumbled in the second and third quarter was alarming, albeit against a good team here. And it doesn't get any easier. Second night of a back-to-back against the Spurs. God, that's like awful on your schedule. You know, you get the first seed in the West, and then the second night you get the second seed in the West, and it's going to be tough for the Raptors, who are decently sizable underdogs for this one against the Spurs. Brutal. Anyways, back on this game here. I mentioned a little bit earlier that Darko Rajakovic in the game was willing to try things and experiment with the rotation and get somebody else involved in the rotation a little bit more. And this is off the back of something I mentioned last week on the channel. So let's further investigate how the minutes were handled between Jamison Battle and Gradey Dick. Because last week I said I was talking about this, and I said that what is Gradey Dick doing right now that Jamison Battle would not be doing? Gradey Dick has been such a liability out there for the Raptors. And I want him to succeed. I want him to succeed. That's all I want. I think he's a terrific player when he's on it. He's a fantastic shooter. He brings something different to the team that we desperately need in shooting. But he hasn't shot the ball well this season. That's really all he does. You know, he can put in some hustle plays, but that's really like that is his game. He hits threes. He's not attacking the rim, and if he does, it's off the back of aggressive closeouts because he should be shooting well from three. He's not a playmaker. He's not creating offense for other people. Like, he's a floor spacer. That's what he does. And he's an awful defender. So he has to make up for the awful defense by being a shooter and being a floor spacer. When Gradey Dick on the season is shooting 30.8% from three, you have to kind of wonder here, like, what is he really doing that warrants that play time over a guy like Jamison Battle? I don't think Jamison Battle is like this outstanding player, but like, what is Gradey Dick doing that Jamison Battle couldn't be doing? Because at least I have more confidence right now in Jamison Battle knocking down some shots, and he's certainly a superior defender to Gradey Dick. And when I talked about it last week, it was the day that Jamison Battle actually got sent down to the 905. So I was like, well, clearly we aren't going in this direction because Jamison Battle's now going to the 905 to get some more game time and opportunities there. Well, as it turns out, Jamison Battle's playing. And maybe it was like just going down to 905 to get game reps and get that kind of game shape in. I don't know what it was. But in the first quarter, the sub that typically would be Gradey Dick coming into the game actually was Jamison Battle coming into the game. And he ended up getting 9 minutes. Still, Gradey Dick got some game time. They put him in to start the second quarter, and I think he played in the second half. I'm not sure exactly which phase, but he didn't have any impact on the game. He didn't take a single shot. He turned the ball over on an occasion. He got a steal, but he turned the ball over pretty sloppily on an occasion. -6. And again, it's just kind of like, I don't know if this is like some transition or something they're doing from Gradey to Battle, but to me, like, yeah, you want to get these guys in rhythm. You want to get your shooter in rhythm and give him game time. I don't see any point of distributing the minutes like this, where Jamison Battle gets 9 minutes and Gradey Dick gets 6 minutes. Like, just give Battle the 15. Just take Gradey Dick out of rotation. Give Battle the 15 minutes. Give him the opportunity here. I wouldn't go as far as to say like Battle's earned the opportunity, but he has had some good games this season. And I would say he's earned it because, like, Gradey Dick has given up this spot in the rotation. Like, you can't play Gradey Dick right now. It's just such a negative to have him out there on the court that, like, why not try and do something here with a player like Jamison Battle? So I don't know what the thought process was for this game. But, again, like, splitting the minutes, it just doesn't really make sense to me. And I talked about there, wanting to have the guy here, the shooter, get some more game time, some more of a runway to play. And for Gradey Dick, like, I get there's been some complications this season for his minutes on any given night. He doesn't know exactly what his role is going to be, how many minutes he is going to get, when he's going to get taken off, and things like that. But at the end of the day, like the minutes, it's the NBA. We're a 5 seed. We are right now 10 games above 500. This is a 5 seed Raptors team vying for a top 4 spot. This isn't back-to-back years of tanking. This isn't tanking anymore. This isn't development anymore. This is trying to win basketball games. These minutes, it's not charity here. We can't just give him minutes for the sake of it. Some players, look, they've done enough where, like, you want to give them an extra bit of play time because, like, you want them to show their stuff and get in rhythm and get the confidence back up. But at a certain point, the player needs to produce something on the floor to warrant those extra minutes. Like, you can't just be doing nothing and get the extra play time because, we want to give you the chance to build confidence, the chance to get in rhythm and things like that. Like, Gradey Dick has had those chances. He's played plenty this season. He's gotten loads of opportunities this season. He's absolutely not taking it. Like, even with the lack of minutes lately, he is still averaging 16 minutes a game this season. So it's not as if he's not getting the opportunity to show his stuff. He's just absolutely not producing. 3-point percentage is down big time. Point output is down big time. And I know it's a different role than last season, because last season he played 54 games. He started all 54 of those games. But, you acquire Brandon Ingram, like, a good player needs to be able to adapt to different roles. And Gradey Dick had to adapt to the bench role. And you know what? Honestly, with the style that Gradey Dick brought, the shooter that the team doesn't have, I think he had a case to potentially take over one of the starting spots. And perhaps if Gradey Dick had been more convincing near the end of last season, he could have dethroned RJ Barrett's position in the starting 5 this year, and the Raptors could have pushed. I'm not saying RJ would have gone to the bench. I'm saying perhaps the Raptors would have pushed even harder to move RJ Barrett to promote Gradey Dick to that position in the rotation. Who knows if that would have been the case, but it's not like Gradey Dick was banging on the door of that position. It wasn't like a situation where, like, it wasn't like a Norman Powell situation where, like, we need to find a way to start this guy. That hasn't been the case. So the opportunities have been there for the player. Again, at a certain point, the player, they need to be able to produce enough to warrant that play time. And Gradey Dick, who I'm a fan of and I want to see him succeed, has just not done that this season. And I talked about it last week, but, like, the contract situation, like, how much jeopardy is there towards his NBA career at the moment? Would it be, like, the most shocking thing in the world if the Raptors just didn't take the team option for next year? I don't think it would be the most shocking thing. I'd still be quite surprised, but maybe there's an internal discussion there. Do you want the $7 million there? I think, to be honest, that $7.1 million he's owed next season becomes more valuable as a trade chip. Like next season, RJ Barrett's making $29 million, I think it is. Gradey Dick's making 7.1. Like, that's $36 million of expiring salary that a team could look to take on, and the Raptors could look to try and manufacture a trade somewhere. We're at the point now where, going to 4th year, his value is that of being an expiring contract to help salary match in a trade. And that's just kind of a disastrous situation for a player who was selected in the lottery, albeit as a 13th overall pick. That's just kind of a disastrous situation. Now, there's still time left in this season, plenty of games left in this season, over 20 games remaining. And there's still a whole season next year, and at least the start of the season, you would think, for him to kind of change things here. But as it is right now, I just don't see a future for Gradey Dick on the Raptors, at the very least in the short term. In the short term, Jamison Battle's got to play. Jamison Battle has got to get these minutes, and it can't be Sharon here. One or the other. Give that guy the chance to play. Jamison Battle, I think this is the time for him to get his chance. It is up to him, though, to seize that opportunity and make use of it. And if he can, that's excellent news for the Raptors, because this guy can freaking shoot. You look at him on the season, albeit in a small sample, 1.3 3-point attempts per game. He's shooting 42% from 3, 51% from the field. I think it's worthwhile to go with him for the time being. But let me know what you think. You can't just keep going. Can't just keep trying with Gradey Dick. It's just not working right now. Can't keep doing it. I'm getting sick of watching him. Hope CZ says, hope Scottie can play tonight. He can rest against the Wizards. Still might lose to Spurs. I don't. Why would Scottie not be playing? Oh, right. He got injured. He got injured yesterday. Oh, man. Yeah. So the issue with it looked like, now I don't know the severity of the injury yesterday, but it looked like a Charlie Horse or dead legs type thing. It looked like an impact type of injury. And injuries like that are honestly like much worse the next day. It probably didn't. He was limping a little bit at the end of yesterday's game, but it probably just flares up and swells up overnight and makes it worse the next day. Kind of a really bad timing here to have a back-to-back, because the injury flares up here. I think he'd be a lot healthier for tomorrow. So he's questionable ahead of the game against the Spurs. I mean, I showed you guys the plus-minus yesterday's game. I know the Raptors are really in tough today, and without Scottie Barnes, good Lord. So the Raptors were going to be like 6.5-point underdogs, but because Scottie Barnes is questionable, they're at 7.5 underdogs, even at home. And I tell you, if Scottie Barnes is out, I think this is gonna go out to like 8.5, maybe 9, because we've seen the importance of his play. I think he'll play, but I could understand if he doesn't. Yeah, the latest news is that he's questionable, and the latest news coming from literally right after the game, he was made questionable for today's game against the San Antonio Spurs. So we'll wait and see on that. Hopefully he's all right to play, but where we've had issues this season is in the paint, and he's obviously a big driving force for the Raptors and their ability to play in the paint. Let's just look at his on-off net rating this season. So players on, and this is crazy for a team that is 10 games above 500. They are minus 2.22 with him off the floor, plus 3.88 with him on the floor. Wow. Defense gets a lot worse. Our offense gets better when he's on. Wow. It's just, this is an important player, man. You can't really afford to not have this guy not have this guy playing. Absolutely. But I mentioned there where kind of some of the problems have been caused for the Raptors. It's been in their paint, their ability to, or I guess lack of ability to stop teams in the paint. As much as we have assessed that the paint has been a problem for the Raptors this season, not just defending it, but scoring in it, I didn't realize perhaps the severity of the issue for the Raptors in those spots. And with that recent loss to the Thunder, there is a much larger showcase of where the biggest needs are for this Raptors team in the offseason. And we're already talking about the offseason here because, we've said like we're going to be patient here. We're going to be patient with this team. It's the second year of the rebuild. We're very ahead of schedule right now as the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference, 34-24, etc. We don't need to go all out and make a move right now. And I understood why Bobby Webster decided to hang on to the first-round picks that the franchise had at the most recent trade deadline. But the work now needs to be done in the offseason. Clearly, this is a pretty good team. Clearly, Scottie Barnes is a cornerstone you can build around. It's time to start giving him the tools to really find success out there on the court. We can't be as bad as we are when Scottie Barnes is not playing. So we need to be able to strengthen this team. So where are those areas? What are the areas that need to be strengthened, rather? Well, I think what's very clear and was a good showcase is that recent loss to the Thunder is the paint for the Raptors. Kind of on both ends of the floor, but the Raptors really got beat up in the paint in this game. 38 points in the paint for the Raptors compared to 56 by the Thunder. I know they had 12 offensive rebounds to R7. Granted, 4 of those came on 1 possession. So, like, that kind of skews it a little bit to me. It's not like the stat is what it is, but that does skew it a little bit for me. But the points in the paint, like the battle in the paint, the Raptors need to be better there. They've had, like, decent success in that this season, especially, like, from their efficiency in the paint. But it's just such a contrast in performance when they get outplayed in the paint versus when they outplay the other team in the paint. Let me show you the statistics I've pulled up here. So I went to Hoop Stats and looked at the in the paint numbers for the Raptors, and this is based on their calculation of the efficiency recap difference. So I looked at when the Raptors had a superior efficiency based on their calculations, when the Raptors have a superior efficiency in the paint, and when they have an inferior efficiency in the paint compared to their opponents in any given game. And the results show that the Raptors, like, this is a pretty pivotal component of the game. When the Raptors win the battle in the paint against their opponent, based on the efficiency recap difference here on Hoop Stats, like I said, this is not just points in the paint, because that's not a great measure of success in the paint. So we're looking at the efficiency here. When they have a better paint game than their opponent, we'll say, they're 27-10. So you would think they'd have a better record when they win the paint battle. When they lose the paint battle, they have a record of 5-14. Now, you would think if you lose the battle in the paint, you're less efficient than your opponent in the paint. You're going to lose more games than you win. But for, like, good teams in the NBA, and I kind of wanted to dig into, like, some other teams here to kind of prove it, but good teams still shouldn't be that bad when they get outscored in the paint, essentially. 5-14 is an alarming number. It is so very clear the Raptors need to win the battle in the paint to win games right now. And to kind of showcase that, let's go through, like, some other teams around the league and see how, like, let's take some teams in the Eastern Conference. How do these teams fare when they're outscored in the paint? Naturally, you'd think they'd be better when they win. The Celtics are 26-4 when they win the paint battle. I know it's a little small for you guys. There we go. I can make it a bit bigger. But only 12-15 when they don't win the battle in the paint, as opposed to the 5-14 that the Raptors are. Let's pull up a team like the Knicks. We'll go to the 3 seed, in the East. They're 11-12 when they lose the battle in the paint. Much better than where the Raptors sit. Let's pull up the Cleveland Cavaliers, the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. 12-15 when they lose the battle in the paint. So it's of course, if you're less efficient than your opponent in the paint, I would say it's going to be a lot harder to win, but it's just how severe it impacts this Raptors team. And I think part of the reason why it's so impactful towards the Raptors is because they can't make it up elsewhere. Like, if they're not playing well in the paint, well, tell you, the offense isn't coming from anywhere else. There is no savior coming from a three-point perspective because there's just such a lack of threat on the outside for the Raptors from three this season. They've been such a poor three-point shooting team this season where, like, again, this is where the success has to come for the team. And it just hasn't been there for the Raptors. I'll pull up, like, let's even pull up, like, shooting percentages for the Raptors this season. And kind of see where it's at from a three-point shot. Give me a second to pull it up. Here. So this season, the Raptors, they've come up a little bit, but they're still a bottom 7 team in the NBA in three-point percentage. And they're hanging around teams like Utah, Indiana, New Orleans, Dallas, Brooklyn, Sacramento, a lot of tanking teams. Now, Portland and Orlando are also here, but they're Orlando, especially, very well known for being a bad shooting team. We're in bad company here, is what I'm saying. We're in bad company here. So when we don't win the paint battle, nothing is alleviating the stress from outside. Like, we have to win the paint battle. It's so important for the Raptors to do that. And they lost it by quite a bit here against the Thunder, and that was why there were so many complications in this game, despite the near sensational, historical, remarkable comeback for this team. So I kind of wonder, like, in a game like this, I get, like, what's more difficult. Jakob Poeltl wasn't available, and that's obviously a very large paint presence for this team. But, like, isn't this why we acquired Trayce Jackson-Davis? I'm not saying he's, like, opening the gates, breaking the game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That would have got us over the line for a win in the game. But I kind of do wonder, like, this is the type of game where you would want him. Some rebounding help, some interior game, some pick and roll action. I don't know. You acquired him. I would have thought this was a game where you'd want to use him. We'll see what sort of role he has for the rest of the season. So, but like I said, like, when you're losing the paint battle and the team is outscoring you, we just find it so difficult to match that scoring pace. The Raptors actually shot the three ball really well in this Thunder game, so this particular game is not a great example where they go 18 of 38 from three. But like that, we had to do that. We had to do that in this game to stay with them in any way, and we did for a while, but it wasn't enough here. Typically, when we get into these scoring matchups, we cannot sustain the scoring pace because of the lack of shooting. And we cannot rely as heavily on Ingram and Barnes because there's not enough space for them. Teams are willing to ignore some players on the perimeter for the Raptors. So where is, like, the help going to come from? I think, actually, as much as, like, well, clearly what you're saying here is we need to win the paint battle, so let's go get some bigger players. And yes, we need some additional size, but I think, like, looking at these numbers, where I'm kind of more fixated is we need to be able to win more games when we're not the superior team in the paint. And to do that, we need more shooting. We need more spacing. Give more space to your top guys here at Ingram and Barnes, because clearly they are fantastic players and fantastic offensive engines. You need to give them more tools of offense and more space to play. Now, does the team need to be bigger? Yeah, still a very small team. The NBA right now is built around size and shooting. The two biggest weaknesses for the Raptors right now are size and shooting. Not exactly where you want to be, but you've got these outstanding players in the team, like Scottie Barnes, who has been so sensational this season. In the offseason, it's very clear the area that needs addressing the most, to me, is the shooting. Easier said than done, but you've held onto your first-round picks for a reason. I think it's time to make a splash and get someone who's really going to make a difference for this team from a shooting perspective. Whether that's top-tier talent or whether that's some supplemental talent, like, we need to inject more shooting into this team. You'll have Gradey Dick on an expiring contract for a trade. More importantly, RJ Barrett on an expiring contract, which you can look to trade. I think those players have become more valuable as expiring contracts, particularly RJ Barrett. So that is where I would be looking if I were the Raptors at the moment. All right. Another reminder here about the charity work that I'm getting involved in at the moment. The charitable organization Let's Cure Lucas. You can find on Instagram at Let's Cure Lucas. The raffle is still ongoing. There's still time to enter the raffle. The draw is going to be on March 1st. All proceeds from this raffle are going towards Lucas, a 4-year-old boy from Toronto who was recently diagnosed with an ultra-rare genetic disease. And he's one of the only people in the world documented to have this. It's impairing his ability to walk, talk, stand, his hand-eye coordination, his fine motor skills. And what's concerning about this is that these are all skills that he's had previously, which are deteriorating as a result of this genetic disease. No treatment and research at this point, so his family is working on the funding to kick-start it, the gene therapy that is needed for him. They're urgently looking to raise $350,000, but it's going to cost $1.7 million to complete. Every dollar helps out. You can go to the GoFundMe link to support, or you can enter this raffle right here. With this raffle, it's amazing for Raptors fans. You get a private box worth $3,500 plus, and now there's $1,500 worth of food and drink being donated into the box for you and your 7 guests. You get all 8 tickets, private box, private entry to the stadium for April 12th in their final regular season game against the Brooklyn Nets. A once-in-a-lifetime experience potentially for Raptors fans. And 100% of proceeds going towards this charity. So you may not win, but you're doing a lot in helping the family out here. Go to the links in the description to find the GoFundMe page or to the Instagram page. DM the Instagram page in order to get the information to enter the raffle. Or if you don't have Instagram, you can email at jdwest1001@gmail.com. jdwest1001@gmail.com. Enter the raffle today. And if you have the means to do so, you can support a great cause here. All right. Last thing I got on my schedule, if no more questions are coming in for today. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, make sure you have hit the like button. It goes a long way to helping support the channel. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you are new. Tonight against the San Antonio Spurs, like I said, 7.5-point favorite, 7.5-point underdogs here. Pirtle will be in, but I just don't know where you stop Victor Wembanyama tonight. This is going to be a pretty nightmare situation to try and deal with him. I'd like to be happily surprised. I'm not holding out a ton of hope. Let's go Raptors, guys. I hope they can find a way to win. But I'll be there watching along with you. It's a doubleheader here, but again, I know that we are in tough for this one. So appreciate you tuning in. Hope to see you tonight to watch along. Hope you enjoy the rest of the week. If not, we'll be back on Friday for more Raptors happy hour coverage just like this. Next game will be Saturday against Wizards, 7 p.m. Looking forward to that one as well. Peace out, everyone.